So today I wanted to share a very deep and profound truth that I've been becoming to understand and accept and work with as part of my practice. I'm getting old. I have been in denial. I have been refusing to accept this. I have been beating around the bush. And I am slowly beginning to accept and use it as part of my practice. I've been surprised by my experience of the acceptance. And so I want to share the journey that I've had with this body. All of my life, I've come to really recognize that it has been my refuge since I was a child. It has been my identity. It has been what I am valuable, my value, my worth, my reputation, my praise, my livelihood, acknowledgement, my relationships, my social circles, pretty much determined by this body. It has been a serious distraction from my internal world, because anytime it got a little bit unsettling in here, I always did something. I always went somewhere. I always underwent something, some activity. And that it was, my body was constantly in motion. I could never sit still. There was something about using the body to enjoy the pleasure that it gave, using the body to enjoy and to have a strong sense of self. My body has been so much a part of who I am. And as a result, I was disconnected from a lot that was going on the internal landscape. So unlike a lot of my peers, once again, born in 1955, a lot of my peers were in the health profession. They were teachers, they were nurses, they worked in business, they raised families, and so they had certain qualifications. But for me, I went to the trades. So it was like, are you sturdy? Are you quick on your feet? Are you strong? How's your eye-hand coordination? How's your hand? Is it steady that you hold a paintbrush? So the qualifications that I had to do the livelihood that I was called to do was very much outside the realm of what the women, my peers, at that time. And what was interesting is that most of my life, because I was in the trades, is that I was one of the few women who actually worked in the trades. I had, there's a big, huge condominium complex about 6 miles from here called Stone Ridge that was built in 1979, 1980. There were 4 crews of men, about 8 or 9 of them, and I was the only woman on one of those crews. I was 24 years old, 25 years old. So my relationship to men has been a little bit unusual in that I was considered to be a peer. Now, they tried the best that they could to get me off the crew by giving me all sorts of things, like how many sheets of plywood can she carry, how many pieces of lumber can she carry. But after the first cut, I was still there. After the second cut, I was still there. And it got to be, I've had an interesting relationship with men in the trades, and that it has been really a pretty mutually respectful. After I kind of got past the hazing stage, I was basically well respected and well treated. Because of this, I just had to admit this last night, because of this identity wrapped up in the body, getting dirty, getting smelly, being cold, being wet, being hot, being covered with concrete or dirt was fine with me. There wasn't anything that most, quote, women worry about. It was fine. It was part of being in the body, part of doing what I love to do, part of participating in the trades was that you were just like one of the guys. And that it gave me a sense of security, being able to just let go of what it looked like and what it smelled like and what it had to do. But I didn't really have any idea about what was going on in my mind, because I was so focused on what the body was doing to get the praise and the reputation and get the food on the table. So I never connected the dots, which now, of course, the Dharma has shown me quite strongly. So this was going on from, let's see, I left home when I was 18, all sorts of outdoor livelihoods, all the physical activities that people love to do outdoors. And then I met the Dharma in 1998, 1997, and things started to get a little bit wonky. Because, first of all, I couldn't sit still for the first 3 years of meditation. My body had no idea what to do with meditation because it was always supposed to be moving, always supposed to be doing something. So I ended up doing a lot of stuff. Like at the center, when Venerable was the spiritual director, I was the volunteer coordinator. I used to plant things out in these big oak barrels in the front of the center. Just do something. I'd go shop, take Venerable to the airport, to bring her home. I needed to keep doing something. And it would give me the ability to then be able to sit. I found out that I could just get the energy out of the body and do my thing. I could actually sit and maybe listen to some Dharma. So then I moved to the Abbey, in 2004, and I was still able to use the body to serve, use the body to continue my reification of myself, that this is who I was. And then what was happening, though, because of the increase in the sitting and the Dharma, I was starting to be able to really understand the internal chaos that was going on the inside. The body was no longer being able to keep me disconnected to the internal huge amounts of emotions that were going on. And that there was quite a bit of pain and self-hatred and unhappiness in there. But the body had, for whatever reason, because I always had so much physical adrenaline going and so much pleasure going on the physical side, that I never got to be quiet enough to be able to really see what was going on the inside. So for the first few years here, Venerable would say, relax, slow down, because the adrenaline was part of the high of relating to the body. My identity was so wrapped around this quick movement that's continually moving. And so having the opportunity to be part of the grounds and taking cars and taking care of cats was a way for me to sort of remove myself from the reification of the body, but at the same time start to be able to work on my mind. And it was, and to realize that all along, my mind has always been in charge, but I've not been able to connect the dots. So I always thought that the body was in charge and that the mind was kind of going along for the ride. But when I moved to the Abbey, I started to see that I would have to make a readjustment, and I was starting to see that the mind and the body had some relationship to each other, duh. Now, in the first 15 years, I continued to work with this strong, nimble, quick, I was called the ever-ready bunny around here, Sergeant Joyous Effort. But in the past 5 years, 3 years, the body, this little boat, this little vehicle, guest house, whatever you want to call it, was needing some repair. It was needing some replacement parts, actually. And I couldn't do things that I used to be able to do without even thinking. And when I look back over the past 5 years, there was a lot of denial. There was a lot of surprise. There was a lot of resistance. And I have seen in the past year there's been quite a bit of grief, because I have really thought that this was the major part of who I was, what I was worth, what my value contributing to the world. So I've had to really understand the nature of the body so that I could have some peace with it, because it's not doing anything but getting older and less capable of doing the things that used to give me a sense of confidence, used to give me a sense of self. So there are a few things that I've been working on recently that have been helping me to make this shift, to not get so thrown into it really does feel like a strange grief, a strange loss, that if I continue to see myself as my body, it's failing and I'm going to die. And that's not the reality that I want to have for the rest of these days, however long I have. So the first one is the 4 establishments of mindfulness. The mindfulness of the body has been really helpful, It wasn't that I had a romanticized version of the body. It was just that I didn't really want to accept the fact that it was, like as Venerable says, it's a poop and pee factory, and that those parts are starting to disintegrate. So going through the mindfulness of the body, particularly the elements, the earth, the wind, the fire, the air, the water, has been really helpful to get so much less personality out of my relationship to the body. The second one is that I've always kind of figured out the dukkha of pain. Okay, the body kind of knows that one. It kind of knows the dukkha of change, because I'd go through pleasant, unpleasant feelings, but I'd never really taken it through the third one, which is this all-pervasive dukkha of conditioning. And when it says that the body and mind are under the control of afflictions and karma, I always went to the mind was under the control of afflictions and karma. I never said that my body was under the control of afflictions and karma. It was just this wonderful, natural, wonderful thing that made me who I was. So to be able to see that this is a karmic result, that this is a karmic appearance, and with the 12 links, it's because of some 8 and 9, and the last time around got number 10, and here I am. That this is a karmic appearance due to the grasping and the clinging and the craving at the time of death. And so I've been trying to get so... trying to become less emotionally invested of what this body means for me. And then the third one is that the emptiness and the dependent arising nature of this body. And there's a paragraph in volume 3 that Venerable covers sometime in the early fall, where it says something about how this whole process of samsara is not personal. And I have been really looking at the fact that there is nobody that is this body. I'm really starting to see that this is an aggregation of things, and then the mind is an aggregation of moments, and that the two of them together, with lots and lots of parts that are changing, then I impute this self. I'm really, little tiny, tiny window that's starting to say, this is so not who I think it is. I'm really starting to see the reification of really being attached to your body for so many years. It's like an addiction. The adrenaline was an addiction. The pleasure was an addiction. The strength was an addiction on reifying this self. But to realize that when I start taking it apart, I can't find the self that I thought it was. And that has been really helping me get through the grief of the fact that it's starting to really, it's been disintegrating since I was conceived, but now I'm really seeing the disintegration. That it's just a vehicle. I like the idea that it's a little house, that's a little car, that there's a mind inside of this, and sooner or later they're going to get separated. That helps me a lot, that it's going through repairs and remodelings and replacements, and that's going to continue to happen till it falls apart. Because if I don't see the emptiness of it and the dependent arising of it, the more that it disintegrates, the more grief-stricken and the more craving and clinging I'm going to have for it. And so one of the things that I'm trying to work into, and the Medicine Buddha helped me a lot this winter, is that, Semke, you want to have a Buddha's form body. That would be really, really fun to have a body of a Buddha. Okay? If you're going to have a body, for goodness sakes, have the body of a Buddha. Okay? It's a body of light. It can emanate in countless forms to help sentient beings. You can spontaneously arise as whatever you want, and you can do whatever you want for as long as you want. But you're going to have to let go of this mass of dukkha. You have been way too attached to this mass of dukkha for too long, and you're going to have to work on the craving and clinging. Because at the time of death, the kind of addictive personality I see that I have to work on to let go of my attachment to this body, I don't want it to be there at the time of my death. I want it to really be lessened and moderated a lot, because I do want this Buddha body. Buddha Bear's got me really inspired to get a Buddha body. So this is kind of in its initial phases, and part of it has been out of necessity because the body has been going through some things the past few years. And I just wanted to use it as part of my practice, to have fun with it, to have some, to go through some withdrawals that aren't so painful, and just to continue to work with it. I had no idea the intensity of it. I had no idea of the identity around it. But as I lose the strength and the agility and the nimbleness and the capacity, I've really had to come to terms with this is something really important for me to practice with, and something really important for me to let go of. And so that's kind of where I've been working the past while. I wanted to share. So practice being old. I'm going to continue to practice getting old.